I'd like to be real crisp about how a change in the equilibrium interest rate can affect business spending on plant and equipment. And I have that topic covered here in two side-by-side graphs. Over here, we have our loanable funds market, the supply and the demand for loanable funds. And over here is an investment demand curve. What this shows is how much business spending occurs at different levels of the real interest rate. Check this out. Suppose for some reason the supply of loanable funds decreased. As you know from our previous analysis, this is going to raise the interest rate, and the higher interest rate is going to affect the demand for business spending on plant and equipment. You can see that by dragging this interest rate on over to our investment demand curve. The increase in the interest rate causes us to slide up the investment demand curve, and there'll be a smaller quantity of business spending on plant and equipment. Moving on to another topic, I wanted to be sure that you didn't confuse the market for loanable funds with the money market. Look at this. The market for loanable funds is completely different and separate than the money market. The supply and the demand for loanable funds is different than the supply and the demand for money. The supply of loanable funds is determined by savers and financial intermediaries, but the supply of money, it's vertical and it's determined by the Fed. The demand for loanable funds is determined by borrowers, but the demand for money is determined by everyone, not just borrowers. So be clear on this. The loanable funds market is different from the money market. Lastly, I wanted to make you aware of the fact that there can be different perspectives on how the supply and the demand for loanable funds shifts and what can cause them to shift. Remember, we showed an increase in the federal deficit increases the demand for loanable funds. But you will have some analysts and textbooks pointing out that if the government is going to borrow more money, there'll be less available for private investors, and so the supply of loanable funds will shift to the left. It's just another perspective on how the federal deficit is going to affect the loanable funds market. But both perspectives result in the same conclusion. When the federal government borrows more money, this is crowding out, and the real equilibrium interest rate rises. Now would be a great time to try some practice questions.